It was a busy Saturday afternoon at Meadowbrook Shopping Centre in Birmingham. The mall was packed with families doing their weekend shopping. Children ran between stores while parents called after them. The sound of footsteps and conversations filled the air. Emma Williams walked through the crowded corridors with her 3 school friends. She was 12 years old with bright eyes and a kind smile that made everyone around her feel happy. Emma had always been the type of girl who helped others and never caused trouble. Her friends loved spending time with her because she was funny and caring. The girls were heading to their favorite store to look at the new jewelry collection. Emma was excited because she had been saving her pocket money for weeks to buy a small bracelet for her mother's birthday. As they walked past the electronics store, Emma's friend Sarah pointed to something in the window. "Look at those new phone cases," Sarah said. "They're so colorful." Emma turned to look, but her friends had already started walking faster toward the jewelry store, not wanting to be left behind. Emma hurried to catch up with them. She was looking ahead at her friends when it happened. Emma's shoulder bumped into a tall display stand near the electronics store entrance. The stand was filled with colorful mobile phone cases ranged in neat rows. When Emma hit it, the plastic stand wobbled back and forth. Several phone cases fell to the floor with small clicking sounds. Emma immediately stopped walking. Her face turned red with embarrassment. She had always been taught to take responsibility when accidents happened, without thinking twice. She bent down and started picking up the scattered phone cases. "I'm so sorry," Emma said to the store clerk who had come over to see what happened. Her voice was soft and sincere. "I didn't mean to knock them over. I was just trying to catch up with my friends." The store clerk was a kind man in his 50s named Mr. Thompson. He had been working at the electronics store for many years and had seen all kinds of accidents. He smiled warmly at Emma as she carefully placed each phone case back on the display. "No worries, love," Mr. Thompson said in a gentle voice. "These things happen all the time. Don't worry about it." Emma felt better hearing his kind words. She made sure every phone case was back in its proper place before standing up. She was about to say thank you and continue walking when she heard heavy footsteps behind her. Security Officer David Mitchell had been standing across the corridor when he saw Emma bump into the display. Why, he was a tall man in his 40s with gray hair and a stern expression. Officer Mitchell had been working security at the mall for 5 years, and he prided himself on being tough on troublemakers. But Officer Mitchell had a problem. He often made quick judgments about people based on how they looked. He didn't take time to understand what was really happening in situations. When he saw Emma at the display, he immediately assumed the worst. "What's going on here, officer?" Mitchell demanded as he approached Emma. His voice was sharp and suspicious. His hand rested on his radio, ready to call for backup. Emma looked up, surprised by his harsh tone. She had just been trying to fix her mistake, and now the security officer was treating her like she had done something wrong. "I accidentally bumped into the display, sir," Emma explained politely. "I was just putting everything back where it belonged." Officer Mitchell's eyes narrowed as he looked at Emma. He didn't bother to ask Mr. Thompson what had happened. He didn't look at the security cameras. He simply made an assumption that would change everything. "Sure you were," Officer Mitchell said with a mocking laugh. "Empty your pockets, right now." Emma's 3 friends had been walking ahead, but they heard Officer Mitchell's loud voice and turned round. They saw their friend standing next to the security officer with a confused expression on her face. Other shoppers in the area began to notice the commotion and started gathering round to see what was happening. "I haven't taken anything, sir," Emma said, trying to stay calm. Her voice was steady, but inside she felt confused and scared. "You can ask the store clerk. He saw exactly what happened." But Officer Mitchell wasn't interested in hearing the truth. His prejudice had already clouded his judgment. He saw only what he wanted to see. "Don't lie to me, girl," he said loudly, making sure everyone round could hear him. "I've seen this before. Kids like you coming in here, causing trouble, taking things that don't belong to you." Emma's heart began to race, but she remembered something important. Her mother had always taught her to stay calm and respectful, even when other people weren't being fair. Even when things seemed scary, the truth would always win in the end. Emma took a deep breath and made herself stand up straighter. Even though she felt scared and embarrassed, she remembered all the important lessons her mother had taught her. Her mother always said that being strong comes from inside a person, especially when things are unfair. "Sir," Emma said, and this time her voice sounded more confident, "I know you are trying to do your job, but I am telling you the truth. My mother is General Patricia Williams. She works at the Aldershot military base." Officer Mitchell rolled his eyes in a dramatic way that made Emma feel even worse. "Oh, now you are getting very specific with your lies," he said in a mocking voice. "What are you going to tell me next?" That she knows the Prime Minister personally. The crowd round them was getting bigger. More people had stopped their shopping to watch what was happening. Some of them looked uncomfortable seeing how Officer Mitchell was treating a young girl. Thompson, the kind store clerk, had been watching everything with worry in his eyes. He was a gentleman who had worked at the electronics store for many years. He had seen Emma pick up every single phone case and put it back carefully. He knew she was telling the truth. "Officer Mitchell," Mr. Thompson said in a careful voice, "I saw exactly what happened. This young lady bumped into the display by accident. She immediately started cleaning everything up. She has not taken anything from my store." But Officer Mitchell was too proud to listen. His ego was hurt, and he did not want to admit that he might be wrong about Emma. He was determined to prove that he was right. "Stay out of this, Thompson," Officer Mitchell snapped at the store clerk. "I know what I saw with my own eyes. And I know when someone is trying to trick me with made-up stories about their family." While this was happening, Emma's friend Lucy had quietly moved away from the group. She was a smart girl who always thought quickly in difficult situations. Lucy had Emma's mother's phone number saved in her phone for emergencies. She knew that this situation definitely counted as an emergency. Lucy stepped behind the pillow where no one could see her and quickly dialed the number. Her hands were shaking as she pressed the buttons. Back in the crowd, Emma continued to defend herself. "I am not making anything up," she said, and her voice was getting stronger with each word. "My mother has served our country for many years. She has been on 3 tours of duty in different countries. She has received the Distinguished Service Order and the Military Cross for her bravery." The people watching were starting to whisper to each other. Some of them were beginning to question whether Officer Mitchell was handling the situation the right way. A few people pulled out their phones to record what was happening. An elderly woman named Mrs. Rose had been shopping for groceries when she heard the commotion. She was a grandmother who had raised 5 children of her own. She could see that Emma was a good, honest child who was being treated unfairly. Mrs. Rose stepped forward through the crowd. "Officer," she said in a gentle but firm voice, "perhaps you should just call the military base to check. It would not take very long, and it would solve this problem quickly." Officer Mitchell's face turned red with anger. He did not like being told what to do, especially by civilians. "I do not need people telling me how to do my job," he said loudly. "And I certainly do not need to waste my time chasing down fairy tales and made-up stories." Emma could feel everyone staring at her. Some people looked at her with sympathy and kindness. Others seemed curious about what would happen next. But a few people were looking at her with the same unfair assumptions that Officer Mitchell had made. Emma thought about her mother, who had faced discrimination many times during her military career. Her mother had overcome these challenges through hard work, and by never giving up, Emma knew she had to stand strong, not just for herself, but for every young person who might face similar treatment in the future. "I am not lying," Emma said firmly, looking directly at Officer Mitchell, "and I am not a thief. I am just a 12-year-old girl who accidentally knocked over a display and tried to fix it properly." Officer Mitchell stepped closer to Emma, trying to make her feel small and scared. "We will see about that," he said in a threatening voice. "I am calling for backup officers. And we are going to sort this situation out the right way." Emma's heart was beating very fast, but she refused to back down. She had learned from her mother that sometimes a person has to stand up for what is right, even when it feels difficult and scary. "That is fine, sir," Emma said quietly but with determination. "The truth will come out eventually." What Emma did not know was that 5 minutes earlier, her mother had received Lucy's phone call. The atmosphere in the mall corridor felt heavy and uncomfortable. More security guards had arrived after Officer Mitchell called for backup. A small crowd of about 30 people had gathered in a circle round Emma, watching everything that was happening like it was a show on television. Emma stood in the center of all the attention, trying her best to stay calm despite feeling overwhelmed. Her heart was beating fast, and her hands felt cold. But she remembered her mother's words about staying strong during difficult times. Officer Mitchell was holding his radio close to his mouth. Speaking in a loud, dramatic voice, he was talking to his supervisor as if he was dealing with a dangerous criminal instead of a 12-year-old girl who had accidentally knocked over a display. "We have a serious situation here at Meadowbrook Shopping Center," Officer Mitchell announced. Importantly, into his radio, "Yon suspect was caught in the act of shoplifting. She is now claiming to be related to military personnel. I need additional backup officers to help process this case properly." Emma's 3 friends were standing together nearby, feeling scared and helpless. They wanted to help their friend, but they did not know what to do. Sarah was crying quietly, and the other girls looked very worried. Lucy kept looking toward the main entrance of the mall, hoping to see someone she recognized. Mrs. Rose, the kind elderly woman who had spoken up earlier, slowly moved closer to Emma through the crowd. She was a grandmother who had seen many unfair situations in her long life, and she could tell that Emma was a good, honest child. "Are you all right, dear?" Mrs. Rose asked Emma in a soft, caring voice. Emma nodded her head, even though her hands were shaking a little bit. "Yes, ma'am. Thank you for asking about me." Double quotes. Mrs. Rose leaned closer and whispered so only Emma could hear. "I believe you completely. I can see that you're a good girl. What is happening to you is not right." These kind words made Emma feel a little bit better. It was nice to know that at least one person in the crowd believed her story and could see that she was telling the truth. Thompson, the store clerk from the electronics shop, was becoming more and more frustrated as he watched the situation continue. He had seen exactly what happened with the phone case display, and he knew that Emma had done nothing wrong. He decided to try talking to Officer Mitchell one more time. "Officer Mitchell," Mr. Thompson said as he approached, "I really must ask you to listen to me. This young lady has done absolutely nothing wrong. I have been watching her the entire time. She is telling the complete truth about what happened with the accident." Officer Mitchell waved his hand at Mr. Thompson in a dismissive way, as if he was showing a wave. "I will handle this investigation myself. Thank you very much," he said rudely. "I have dealt with enough of these types of cases to know exactly what is really going on here." The crowd was getting restless. Some people were starting to feel uncomfortable watching a security officer treat a young girl so harshly. A few people were recording the situation on their phones, thinking that something was not right about how Emma was being treated. But then, something in the mall's atmosphere began to change. The energy in the air felt different, as if something important was about to happen. People who were standing near the main entrance of the shopping center began to step aside and move out of the way. There was a subtle shift in the crowd's behavior, like when people sense that someone very important is approaching. Emma looked toward the main entrance, and suddenly her heart jumped with relief. Joy and pride, walking through the main doors, was a figure that commanded immediate respect from everyone who saw her daughter. It was General Patricia Williams, Emma's mother, wearing her full military dress uniform. The uniform was dark blue with shiny buttons, and her chest was decorated with ribbons and medals that she had earned through years of brave service to her country. General Williams walked with confidence and purpose. Her posture was straight and strong, showing that she was someone who was used to being in command. Her polished black military boots made clicking sounds on the tile floor as she moved toward the crowd. Every person in the area seemed to feel her authority immediately. Conversations stopped in the middle of sentences. People automatically stood up straighter when they saw her. Even the security guards seemed to sense that someone very important had entered the building. The general's expression was command, controlled, but Emma could see the determined look in her mother's eyes. This was the look her mother got when she was ready to protect her family and fight for what was right. Officer Mitchell was still talking loudly into his radio. Completely unaware of what was happening behind him, General Patricia Williams walked toward her daughter with careful, measured steps. Every movement showed her military training and years of experience as a leader. She moved through the crowd with confidence, and people automatically stepped aside to let her pass. When she reached Emma, the general placed a gentle, protective hand on her daughter's shoulder. Emma immediately felt safe and comforted by her mother's presence. The fear and stress she had been feeling began to melt away. "Are you all right, sweetheart?" General Williams asked in a soft voice. Her stern military expression changed completely as she looked at her daughter with love and concern. "Yes, Mom," Emma replied, wiping away the tears that had been running down her cheeks. "I tried to tell Officer Mitchell who you were, but he did not believe me. He laughed at me when I mentioned your name." General Williams turned her attention to Officer Mitchell, who was still standing nearby in complete shock. His mouth was open, and his face had turned very pale. He looked like he could not believe what he was seeing. The general's voice remained calm and controlled, but everyone could hear the unmistakable authority of someone who had commanded soldiers in difficult situations. "Officer Mitchell," she said clearly so everyone could hear, "I am General Patricia Williams, and this is indeed my daughter, Emma. I understand there has been some confusion about an incident involving an October display." Officer Mitchell's face quickly changed from pale white to bright red. He was so embarrassed and shocked that he dropped his radio on the floor. His hands were shaking as he bent down to pick it up. I was just. There was a situation happening, and I was investigating," he stammered, unable to form complete sentences. Thompson, the kind store clerk, stepped forward with confidence now that the truth was obvious to everyone. He had been trying to defend Emma from the beginning, but Officer Mitchell had not listened to him. General Williams, Mr. Thompson said respectfully, "Your daughter accidentally bumped into a display in my store. She immediately began cleaning it up and apologizing to me. She took absolutely nothing from my store. This was simply an unfortunate misunderstanding that got completely out of hand." General Williams nodded gratefully to Mr. Thompson, then turned To address the crowd of people who had gathered to watch everything unfold, "I want to thank Mr. Thompson for his honesty and fairness," she said, her voice carrying clearly to everyone present. "My daughter was raised to take responsibility for her actions, to always tell the truth, and to treat everyone with respect. These are the values that I have fought to defend throughout my entire military career." The crowd listened carefully to every word the general spoke. Many people nodded in agreement, and some began to look at Officer Mitchell with disapproval for how he had treated Emma. General Williams then turned back to Officer Mitchell. Her expression was serious, but she was not angry or shouting. She spoke like a teacher who was trying to help someone learn an important lesson. "Officer Mitchell," she said calmly, "I understand that security work can be very challenging. You have to make difficult decisions quickly, and that is not always easy. However, my daughter told you the truth from the very beginning of this situation. She gave you specific information about who I am and where I work. This information could have been easily verified with a simple phone call to the military base." Officer Mitchell continued to look down at his feet, unable to meet the general's eyes. The full weight of his mistake was becoming clear to him and to everyone watching. Instead of checking her story, General Williams continued, "You chose to mock her and assume the worst about her character. You made judgments based on your own prejudices rather than on facts." The crowd around them was completely silent. Everyone was hanging on every word that the general spoke. Even the other security guards who had arrived as backup were listening carefully. Officer Mitchell finally looked up and spoke in a quiet, ashamed voice. "I am sorry, General Williams. I made a terrible mistake. I should have listened to your daughter from the beginning. I should have treated her with respect." General Williams nodded, accepting his apology. "Thank you for acknowledging your mistake, Officer Mitchell. That takes courage, and it is the first step toward making things right." Mrs. Rose, the elderly woman who had supported Emma throughout the ordeal, began to clap softly. Soon, other people in the crowd joined in, showing their support for both Emma and her mother. The shopping center manager, Mr. Davies, had been watching everything from the back of the crowd. He approached with a tablet in his hands, looking very serious. "I have reviewed the security camera footage," he announced to everyone. "The recordings clearly show that Emma Williams accidentally bumped into the display and immediately began cleaning it up. There is absolutely no evidence of any wrongdoing whatsoever." 3 months had passed since the difficult day at Meadowbrook Shopping Center. Many important changes had happened during this time. The security company that employed Officer Mitchell had created new training programs to help their workers understand unconscious bias and learn proper investigation procedures. Officer Mitchell had volunteered to be the first person to complete the enhanced training program. He was genuinely committed to becoming a better officer and a better person. He wanted to make sure that what happened to Emma would never happen to another young person. Emma had returned to her normal school routine and continued spending time with her friends. But the experience had changed her in positive ways. She had discovered an inner strength that she did not know she possessed, and she wanted to use this strength to help other people. On a sunny Thursday afternoon, Emma stood in the community center of Birmingham. She was looking out at a mixed group of about 50 people who had come to hear her speak. The audience included young people, parents, police officers, and community leaders. Emma had started a program called Voices Matter. The program was designed to build understanding between young people and law enforcement officers. She wanted to create a space where both groups could talk openly and honestly about their experiences. 3 months ago, I learned something very important, Emma began, her voice clear and confident. She was no longer the scared 12-year-old girl who had stood in the mall corridor. "I learned that speaking the truth, even when it is difficult, is always the right thing to do. In the audience, Officer Mitchell sat in the front row, listening carefully to every word Emma spoke. He had become a strong advocate for the program. He often shared his own story about how unconscious bias had affected his judgment and led him to treat Emma unfairly docked at the back of the room. General Williams watched her daughter with pride. Her heart was full of joy as she saw Emma turning a negative experience into something positive for the entire community. Her daughter was becoming a leader, just like her mother. I also learned that good people can make mistakes, Emma continued, looking directly at Officer Mitchell as she spoke. But when they are willing to admit those mistakes and work hard to do better, that is when real change happens. After Emma finished her presentation, she opened the floor for questions and discussion. Young people shared their own experiences with law enforcement. Some stories were positive, and others were difficult to hear. Police officers listened with genuine interest and asked thoughtful questions. The conversation was honest but respectful, exactly what Emma had hoped for when she started the program. People were learning to understand each other better instead of making quick judgments. During the break, Officer Mitchell approached Emma with a nervous but determined expression on his face. He had been wanting to speak with her privately for several minutes. "Emma," he said, his voice sincere and grateful, "I want to thank you again. Not just for forgiving me after what happened, but for helping me become a better person. I have learned so much from your program and from watching how you handle difficult situations." Emma smiled warmly at Officer Mitchell. She could see that he had truly changed and was working hard to be better. "Thank you for being willing to learn, Officer Mitchell. That takes real courage too." General Williams joined them during the break, placing a proud hand on her daughter's shoulder. She looked at both Emma and Officer Mitchell with admiration. "I am proud of both of you," she said sincerely. "Emma, you have shown that young people can lead important changes in their communities. And Officer Mitchell, you have shown that it is never too late for a person to grow and improve." Officer Mitchell nodded gratefully. General Williams, "Your daughter has taught me more about justice and fairness than I learned in all my years of training and work experience. She is going to change the world for the better." As the community meeting continued, people from all different backgrounds came together to discuss how they could build a more understanding and fair community. The conversation that had started with conflict and misunderstanding had grown into cooperation and friendship. Emma watched as police officers and teenagers talked together like friends. She saw parents and community leaders working together to solve problems. She realized that her difficult experience had become the starting point for something beautiful and important. Later that evening, Emma wrote in her journal about the day. She reflected on how much had changed since that scary afternoon at the shopping center. She had learned that her voice mattered, that standing up for a truth was always worthwhile, and that even the most challenging experiences could become the foundation for positive change. The last thing Emma wrote in her journal that night was, "Today I learned that being brave does not mean you are not scared. It means you do what is right even when it is hard. And when we do that, we inspire other people to be brave too."